The game of the weekend, Saturday fixture. Fourth place Chelsea facing fifth place Manchester United. Chelsea played to a 0-0 at Brentford, just a 0.55 XG for Chelsea, but we're in Kepa's world now, and we're just living in it. Just another clean sheet for, I guess, the new number one under Graham Potter at Chelsea. Jake went into that in great detail last weekend and was spot on. Chelsea hasn't lost at home in all competitions this season. No losses in 7 overall. No goals conceded in their last 5 games. Bring in a new attacking manager, yet defensively much more sound. The first to score in 4 of 5, and the first half winner in 4 of 5 as well. And this all comes with no Conte, no Fofana, no Reece James, all out long term. United were outstanding against Spurs in a 2-0 victory, a 1.57 to just a 0.81 XG in that game. Harry Kane was invisible as United continued to get the job done at home. 28 shots, by the way, 10 on target in that game for United. They haven't lost in their last 5, no goals conceded in the last 3. Their last 7 goal scorers, by the way, have been all different players. So the goals aren't coming from just one player. It's being spread across the board. We'll see what happens to Cristiano Ronaldo leaving Old Trafford before the game was even done. Martial is a question this weekend. Head-to-head, interestingly, if these two sides relatively even in the table. What about the last 4 times they played? 1-1 in both games last season, goalless draws in both games a season before, and they've gone less than 2.5 in terms of combined goals in 5 of their last 6 games. Chelsea does have a game against RB Salzburg on Tuesday. So keep that in mind, looking ahead to potential squad rotation or what that may mean for Chelsea. Those 2 victories against AC Milan really helped their case in the Champions League. So they might be clear and done. And the priority will probably most likely be Manchester United this weekend. Plus 116 for a home win, plus 252 for the draw, plus 263 for an away win. The total is set at 2.5, minus 113 for the over, plus 102 for the under. Who do you like here, Jake?
This is one of my favorite bets of the week. I think you just said it there, that the previous meetings, 1-1 last in both games last season, 0-0 the time before. I'm hoping for a repeat because I'm going for an under 2.5 goals, which is at plus 102. It was either that or the draw, because I think these two teams are very evenly matched at the moment. And the unders just takes the win for me. I said at the top of the show, I've got a few concerns about Chelsea. And I know you highlighted a couple of potential concerns early on, the fact that the schedule was very kind. Well, not only has the schedule been kind, the results have been really, really good, but the performances haven't been impressive whatsoever over that 4-game span. Lost the XG battle in both games against Aston Villa and Brentford. But yeah, overall, I mean, it's a small sample size we're working with still, so I have to take this with a bit of a pinch of salt. But since Potter was appointed, they've averaged just 1.35 expected goals for per game, which is the 11th best in the Premier League. 1.46 expected goals against per game, which is the 13th best in the Premier League. And they've racked up 1.33 expected points per game, which is actually the 12th best in the Premier League. So those numbers are not very good. They're not top 4 worthy. And the fact that they've come against the level of opponent that they have, in the sense that they've only played Crystal Palace, Wolves, Villa and Brentford, I think there's only Wolves out of those 4 that finished in the top half last season. But as we've spoken about a lot, Wolves really didn't deserve to finish in the top half. 4 teams there that you'd expect. They've obviously got good results, but you'd expect better performances against those 4 teams and better underlying numbers. So that's a huge question mark for me, a huge issue in looking at getting Chelsea on side moving forward until we start to see that corner being turned. What it does tell you, though, is that they're not creating a lot of good chances and they're not conceding a lot of good chances, which ultimately led me to the under 2.5 goals. And couple that with the fact that United have proven to be a very difficult team to beat recently, 1 defeat in 8 in the league. They were really good against Spurs. The defence has been really tight since they were blown out by Manchester City. They conceded expected goals totals of 0.73, 0.94 and 0.81 in those in the last 3 Premier League matches. But they are struggling to create chances, as I touched on earlier. The fact that they're relying on a lot of shots from distance. I mean, 28 shots against Spurs for an XG total of just over 1.5 is not gonna cut it in the long term. If you're racking up 28 shots, I'd like to see at least 2 expected goals, maybe more. But not consistent. I've got, like I said, question marks about Chelsea generally, question marks about United's attack, but both defenses seem to be in a pretty good place right now. In which case, I just think the unders is a massive price. I expected it to be odds on, to be honest, because of the long-term trends of Graham Potter have been really solid defensive play whenever he's been in charge, whether that be at Brighton, even at Ostersunds. So yeah, really, really interesting stuff. And the fact that we've got this price, I just think it seems like an open goal, which ultimately means it's going to be a 4-4.
That's the only reason why I'm not touching the total here, because everything in terms of the data suggests the under and a close game here. I just think the wrong team is favored. I don't think that Chelsea's a better side than Manchester United right now. They have a negative expected goal differential. Chelsea United's actually flipped that around. They're on the right side of that number now. Am I confident enough to say that United's going to go to Stamford Bridge after coming up with a big result against Spurs to go on and outright win it? I think they can. I'm not confident enough to make that bet. I think that draw, making that play makes a lot of sense. But if you're going to give me plus 0.25, so if it does come away with a draw, United comes away with a half win as well at plus 107. That seems a decent play for me. So you kind of half back the draw, but you fully back United at a plus number in this game. So with the handicap of plus 0.25 at plus 107, that's my play. I think the United should be the favorite in this game, to be honest.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. I think Chelsea I just think the things that like home field advantage is factored in quite heavily, and I would suggest looking at these prices, that the market is saying that Chelsea are a better team on a neutral venue. In which case, if you think the opposite, then absolutely go for United with a head start. At the moment, as we've discussed with the data, not really trusting enough in either team to go with a handicap. I just think that a low scoring affair is in the offing, really. I wouldn't be surprised to see it be 0-0, to be honest. They're both in touching distance of the top 4. They're very close to closing the gap on the likes of Spurs, City above them. So it feels like a game that neither will really want to lose to a fellow rival. And it might be one of those where you get to 85 minutes, it's 0-0 or 1-1, and you just start to see a little bit of, okay, we'll take this. In which case, obviously, that gives the others even more chance.
I just think the stakes are higher for United right now to close that gap with Spurs and the rest of the top 4. And look, although I'm a little bit pessimistic on their lack of finishing in the team, what they do have right now are 2 fullbacks in very good form, a solid partnership at center back for the first time in a decade. Casemiro has changed the complexion of this team in midfield as well. Erik, the pieces are starting to come together.
Fred, the Casemiro Fred I like, because they played together for Brazil for years when Brazil were playing really well, winning Copa Americas. That seems like a really nice pairing for a game like this, a bigger game, if you like. You've got that extra security blanket. Maybe not as much progressive passing as what you get with Eriksen, but they seem to complement each other really nicely.
And I'll say this, in some of the numbers that you threw out about United and their XG in recent games, a lot of them came with Cristiano Ronaldo leading the line. He will not be leading the line this weekend, which I actually think is beneficial for this team and their output. You're right. They haven't been generating the chances, but it's not in the build-up play. It's that final ball, that final decision that's been lacking there. And I think that no Ronaldo in this team probably means better results for this group as well. So
it's hard to disagree. I think the only thing I'd probably add is you touched on the fact that Chelsea have got a Champions League game on Tuesday. That's actually quite a big game given the state of that group. That they if they want to top the group, they need to go to Salzburg and win. And it's the same for United.
Games on Thursday, Tuesday, Thursday is the different. That's why.
But they're chasing the Real Sociedad down in that group, and if they finish second in that group, then they have to play another 2 matches, whereas the winner of the group goes straight to the knockout stages, the quarterfinals actually. So the runner-up goes into a last 16, which features teams from the Champions League dropping down. So not only do you have to play a potentially stronger opponent to get to the quarterfinals, you also have 2 extra matches in a season that's going to be super tight anyway in terms of turnaround. So there is a real importance, if United want to do well in the Europa League, to continue that winning trend. And I think we've seen. I've been really surprised that Ten Hag's not rotated his team as much as what the likes of Potter has. Maybe it's just because he doesn't trust the players that are back there. But he watching the Europa League game against Omonia Nicosia, and you see the likes of Dalot starting, Sancho, Anthony starting as well. Fernandez has played a lot of football. I just wonder if he's just going a little bit too hard with them, or maybe that's the reason why all the pressing stats are down. Maybe they're trying to rotate, trying to just almost pivot in terms of playing style, not be as gung ho in what is such a really tight season, and just pick the moments to do that. So really fascinating watch from a tactical perspective.
Yeah, I think he's just trying to build some continuity in the team. New manager, difficult to do. Build some positive momentum for a club that is being mired and clouded with bad news for how long now. And if Sheriff on Thursday at home, and you're not going to Moldova, you're playing at Old Trafford. If that's a scary proposition, then United have more problems. I don't think it is. I think that's where the rotation will come.
It's still a must-win game, isn't it? That's what I meant.
Yes,
it's still must-win.
Of course.
But yeah,
I can't wait for it.
Good.
Chelsea United, always a good fixture. Always will have some intrigue. 2 attack-minded managers. We're not dealing with Mourinho or on either side anymore. It should be a game where I'm hoping both teams go for it. That's the only I get it with the numbers. I'm just staying away from the goal total in this game for now.